Wait, were we supposed to do a copy and then save?
You save it as,
A different
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, just something that we can delete later or whatever you want to do. We could always undo through everything we do, but it's safer just to create a dummy file. All right, a couple things before we get started. I've only had one person come to me with their final project. Remember, we wanted those by Tuesday.
Today?
I believe today's Tuesday.
I didn't know it was due today.
We wanted to have those assigned by Tuesday. That's what I had mentioned. We didn't want them done. You've got a while to work on them, but we need them assigned.
Oh, that's right.
Final project.
Okay, I'll give you one more day for your final project. If you do not bring one in for us to go over and do, then I'm going to take away your ability to pick your own project, and you'll do my project. I think you prefer to do yours. So find something you wish to model, bring it in, let's chat about it, and let you get cracking on that. In addition to that type of drawing, I think people are really kind of approaching their 3D drawing styles, at least some of you, in the wrong format. We put a kind of a punch list for you on the board late last week to follow. And as I've come through and helped quite a few of you, you're not following this stuff. And it's really going to make your life easier if you draw that way. And I think maybe we haven't done enough demo on that. So if you are able to this afternoon, I know we're not required to be here, but I'll start about 1:15 and I'm going to draw the entire butterfly assignment and put it all together and show you how I would build these parts. And I'll go through the steps on them, then I'll dump a couple of them on Google Classroom so you have documentation on these steps that we talked about. And I think that might help you a little bit. Okay, certainly I'm not planning on you drawing with me because I'm going to try and finish the thing in an hour and get it completely done. And if you follow some steps and give an outline of what you're doing, I think you'll find that these things really fall together fairly quickly. But you can't just start drawing on them. You can't just pull open your computer and say, okay, rectangle extrude, and not give any thought to what the thing's doing. Okay, I think that outline is crucial to a completed project. So if you're able to make that, fine. If I got one person here, I'll do it. Depending on who can make it, because I know some of you can't. Like Gabe, I know you got to go to school, so you aren't going to be here. But
What? You
and you
can't?
might have work or something like
Yes,
that.
good.
You just can't do it. And if that's the case, we'll try and maybe do it another time also. But I think just watching somebody maybe draw 4 or 5 of these things in repetition might help you a lot. So I'll do that this afternoon. Second, tomorrow, last thing before we get started, is we have a guest coming tomorrow. If you would open an internet browser. Dan Karst is coming in tomorrow. I do have a shirt I would like to give him for taking time out of the day to come down and talk to you folks about the real world. Certainly, I would hope that you take advantage of having Dan in this room. Does anybody from the club want to present this to Dan when he's done? Somebody besides you, Lisa. You already know.
Well, Andy's the president.
Or yeah, Andy can do it.
President.
Okay,
Wait,
Andy's not here, so if you would, please present that to him. It's a XXL t-shirt with CSI logo on it.
Sweet.
Just tell him thank you for coming in to the classroom if you would. And that way, maybe he came down last year, he's wanted to do it again this year, and hopefully we keep that going for future classes. Please take advantage of having Dan in here. Has a drafting degree
Sweet.
and has moved up through to the designer level. And this guy knows a lot about his business. He knows a lot about what you folks are going through right now. He has sat in your seat and he's gone through the process. So please take advantage of having him here. I would like you to do a skill today, or an assignment today, and turn it in, because I want you focused on it. I would like you to sit down, do a little research, and I'm talking about 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to show you how to do that research in a second. And I would like you to physically write down one question that you would like to ask Dan. Please type it up on a piece of paper, put your name on it, and put it in the wire basket. This will be graded. It is due end of day today, 12 o'clock. So give it some thought, a question you would like to ask Dan, do that, and then tomorrow, if he doesn't field that question in his general thought, I would hope that you raise your hand and ask him about it. It could be anything from, what kind of software are you using? What are your work hours? What's a skill that has allowed you to progress to the level that you're at? What's a peer environment like? What's a team environment like? Do you like your chair in your work office? You got a sore back? What's the case? You know, ask any and all questions. But you're going to have a person with 20 plus years experience in the field, in Idaho, in front of your room, that has gone through the exact same procedure you're going through right now. Now, to do some research, what I'd like you to do is go to Power Engineers website. So if you would type in powereng.com. powereng.com. You should get this website up. Just a couple words on here. You ought to first go through and read anything you can find on our company. This would be simple research that you would do before you ever went into a job interview. Know about the company a little bit. This is an Idaho-based company. They've been around for a substantial amount of time. I can't remember the exact. It's probably coming up on maybe 30 years now. I worked with them back when I was in industry. They started in Pocatello, have moved to Haley. They're pretty proud of their little burnout holiday and why they moved to Haley. You might want to know what that is and ask them about it. Haley is their headquarters. These folks stayed in the state of Idaho, working in the state of Idaho for a substantial amount of years, and then they went through a huge growth spurt. They are now pretty much throughout the U.S. and they are international. One of their big money makers right now is power plants, namely gas power, and they're building them all over the world. So they've not only progressed from the design stage, they're moving into the construction management stage where, like a Turkey might have geothermal, and they'll design them a plant, they'll go over and cut and manage it while it's being built also. But there is room to travel with these folks. They do a lot of this type of work. They're primarily in power distribution. That is primarily what they think of. People think that this is an electrical engineering firm. It's not. It's really a civil engineering firm. This power distribution and power generation is a civil function. They do have a lot of electrical engineers, obviously, working for them. They're multidisciplinary. They have architects, they have civil engineers, they have mechanical engineers, they have electrical engineers, they have structural engineers, all working under this office, and they have the drafting support staff to run those folks. One of our largest employers of the state, they've been hiring CSI drafters for a long, long time. They're on our advisory committee. Some of their people will be in this room later this year advising us on our curriculum and what they need for you folks to be a successful employee with them. If you wanted to come through and look at, now, there's a link on here, Power Careers. Let's go into that real quick and go down to employment listings. So Power Careers, employment listings. And if you go down on the page that comes up just a little bit, you're going to see this little area right here. And if you would, just choose Idaho. So go in and just choose Idaho, leave the location on any, because they have 2 offices in Idaho. They've actually got more than that, I'm not sure. I know they're up in North Idaho also. But their main office, their headquarters is in Haley. Their largest office in the state is in Meridian. Last year, these folks hired 3 people out of this classroom. And they're all, let's see, one's working in Haley, 2 are working in Meridian. Choose Idaho. Under descriptive keywords, just type drafter. And do a search.
None. Got one in Haley.
Okay, they do have a job open right now in the Haley area. Guess who's going to hire that person? Dan Karst. The person that's going to come be in your room tomorrow. Yes.
So would it be kind of a bad question to ask how much we'll get paid just starting off?
Pay is always a tricky subject. Generally, financial things are never discussed the first interview. I think tomorrow, while you got him in here, it might be a good idea to ask him, but I would do it in a global sense. I would say, do you have a pay range that Power typically brings entry-level drafters in? Do you have, and what are my possibilities for advancement or something of this nature? And he might answer the question, he might not. Okay, I know if it was me doing it, I probably would not answer the question. I'd say, well, that's something we'll discuss personally if you get an interview. That's the way I would answer the question. Okay. Know what your market worth is. And that's something that generally comes up in the second interview. Typically, just so you know, students coming out of here, they're averaging around $20 an hour. And like I mentioned, Power takes a bunch of them, so guess who's kind of driving that?
Gotcha.
So, but don't hesitate to ask it. Please ask it kind of in a global sense, and I think that it would probably be pretty well received, and he might give you an answer, he might not. It's really personal because, you know, some people bring different things to the table. Like if I'm hiring somebody and they've gone through a drafting program, but they have no other real-world experience, they're going to be lower on the scale. If I bring somebody in, they got some other skills, like maybe they worked as a framer, or they were a sparky, you know, they've wired houses, things like that, then I would think about, this person's got some visualization ability worth a little bit more. And then I would probably make an offer to that person based on that knowledge. Okay? So there's kind of these global ranges, Becca, but there's also what you bring to the table as a potential employee. Any past work history you have might be able to boost that up a little bit.
Okay. Are they a union or anything like that, do you know? Or?
State of Idaho's work right state. All right, so there's that. As far as another thing to go through would be to look through the R projects, and you'll get an idea of what they do. Now, if you go to the power, under R projects, there's power delivery. Can you click into that link, please? The very top section is substations. Is everybody, who doesn't know what a substation is?
I don't.
Okay, you've all seen them. Basically, you're driving around town and you see a wire fence around a little area, usually 1 to 4 acres, and there's a whole bunch of equipment inside of it, and it says danger high voltage. Okay, and it's in every neighborhood. How many of you have driven the highway from here to Haley? Just before Shoshone, you see that big substation that sits on your right? That's a substation. Okay, and what we end up doing is we come from a generation facility. Okay, and in essence, the one just before Shoshone, the big one that's out in the desert to your east as you drive out there, all that power comes from primarily the Twin Falls Dam and the Shoshone Dam. And it's then generated there, it's transmitted to that substation, and then the substation distributes it throughout the network. And so that's in essence what a substation is. There's many in the link, so that's a main one, and then it would then shoot to one in Twin Falls, and Twin Falls would have one, and then it'd shoot to one in your neighborhood, and then that one's distributing it to just a little local area. primarily, that's what Dan does, is substation design. Okay? So he does a lot of structural work, because equipment location with electricity is very important. Grounding is very important. This is large voltage. Typically, this is coming in at 750 kV, so 750,000 watts on a line. That's just one line. So you can imagine the megawatts that are sitting in these places. You can't have a piece of equipment sitting too close to another piece or it'll arc. You've got all kinds of things that go on. So that's primarily what they do, is they locate equipment and structures to support that equipment to distribute power. And in essence, folks, this is kind of what drives your communities. Pretty complicated design in that there's a lot of parts that you put together. It takes a while to learn how to do a substation. They'll bring you along. Freddie is up working for Dan. He was in this classroom last year. He's up learning that process right now. But that's primarily what it is. You ought to look through some of those projects. If you just click on substations, there's some projects off to the side, and they kind of show you what they are. Okay, so here's the Squab Hollow one. This was actually a pretty cool one. I've seen pictures of the development of this. I think this one's in Kentucky, Pennsylvania. But it sits up on top of a mountain. They had to take the top of the mountain off and clear all the timber and get their transmission lines going in and out. This is just a picture of part of the slab that it's sitting in. Does it kind of look familiar? You seen this in your neighborhood?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Very expensive equipment in there, at least as far as us as public citizens would consider expensive. So please look through some of these items here. I think that's kind of the biggie. I would spend some time looking through their website so you're familiar with them a little bit. And then, like I said, you do have an assignment. Please write up at least, at a minimum, one question. You might want to look through their benefits. What do they have for benefits for you? What are your possibilities for promotion? How many different types of software are they using? Are they using AutoCAD? Are they using MicroStation? What are they using? If they use something besides AutoCAD, will they train you on it? Do they have mentors? People to help you along through the process? Any of those are all good questions. What's a red line? The nature of how an entry-level drafter works. I'll bet you bring some examples of red lines. Do they use blocks? Do they do this? All those questions you might have. Anyway, give it a little bit of thought. I will ask when he comes in that we do pull away from our workstations and we give him all of our attention. You may want to take notes. If you want to work for this company, I would really kind of make sure it's good. Now, do you want to dress up for it? Dan's probably going to be dressed a lot like I am. Certainly, I think if you wanted to have him remember you, you might want to take a moment just to make sure that you present yourself in a professional capacity. He's not going to hire anybody tomorrow, but you're going to have a chance to shake his hand and say, hey, I think I'm going to apply for your job, and I'll get you all the stuff, and hopefully I get a chance to talk to you again. Maybe that's some. Go ahead, Cheryl, before I ramble.
Is this a company that we would consider touring in Boise, or because he's here we won't really?
I gave this company to your tour committee to look at going to, and they're going to present that to you folks. Yes, Becca?
How long is he gonna be here? Like,
As long as he needs.
as long as he needs. So if we need to, we can speak to him like after, or like.
There may be time for that after. Okay. He is going to take some time and get private with one individual in this classroom who's already contacted him, and we've already set that up. He probably won't get here till sometime between 9 and 9:30 because he's going to leave Haley at 8. I don't know if he's bringing anybody else with him. Yes?
Would you go over his background again?
I'll leave that to him.
Okay. I just thought it might help to ask.
And, yeah, I don't want to misspeak it. Me and Dan know each other, but we're not friends. I don't know his whole background. I believe, and don't quote me on it, I believe he has an Associate's of Applied Science in Drafting. I think it came from ISU, though. I don't think it came from here, which I'm surprised he is able, he must be a sharp guy if he's still working with that degree.
Don't say that.
That's a joke. Kind of like when I worked, geologists and engineers, we were constantly doing that. Many of you will get out there, architects and engineers, they're always bantering electrical drafters versus mechanical drafters. What do you think I meant by Sparky? That's just stuff that you do to kind of have fun. One last thought. If you are interested in going to work for a firm, this is a great place to go as an entry-level drafter. You'll have tons of support. I have never talked to a single drafter that has worked for Power and did not love it. None. That says something. Another thing is when you folks look at places to go to work, the first thing I would tell you to look at is look at the workforce. If you walk into an office and everybody in that office has 2 years or less experience with that firm, that's where you see big red flags with me. Okay, because they're probably treating it like a sweatshop and people are leaving them. They're not paying them, or they're working them too hard, or something, making unnecessary demands from them. If I walk into a firm and drafter after drafter after drafter has 20 plus years experience with that firm, I'm saying, hey, something's going on right here. That's the first thing I would always look at with a firm. And that'll tell you a lot about how they treat their people. Anyway, do your research on that, please turn that in. All right, let's get to a little bit of plotting characteristics. Now, this is the last day. I think I'm going to do one more short deal on plotting. Tomorrow, I'll do that before Dan shows up in the morning. But that's going to be kind of it. I'm going to switch to chapters 16 through 19, which are in the syllabus, which is rendering, after that. And I'm going to kind of hit that as we go through. Certainly, we got a test review to do on Thursday also. So we'll start switching to a different realm. Just so you know, on the test, we are only testing up through chapter 14. The rendering stuff we will start talking about will not be tested on. I think we mentioned that yesterday. All right, so plotting. Do I have to do view base and multi-views with this thing? Yeah, that's kind of the way AutoCAD's going. But when we do view base, what kind of options do we have? When you folks are looking to put together a multi-view drawing, what are some of the things you think about? Let me just open that. What do you think about? You're getting ready to look at an object and you need to do a shape and size description. Let me ask you, what's probably the first thing you're looking at?
The dimensions.
Which view you're going to make the front view?
Okay, where's my front view? And conversely, what's off of that is how many other views am I doing? Is it a 2-view drawing? Is it a 3-view drawing? Us as drafters, that's the first thing we do is a shape description, isn't it? Because we have to completely describe the geometry. The second thing we do in that process is what Amy just mentioned, which is the dimensioning process, or the size description. I think, just as an aside, anybody having to review chapter 17 of your Bertolini text as you dimension? Where are positive cylinders, negative cylinders, all this stuff that we talked about. Okay, so I look at this guy, and I say, okay, here's my front view. This is a pretty good orientation for a front view. Is it a 3-view drawing? What's described here? Well, I need it for this hole right here. I got to give circular view of negative cylinders, right? I've got a positive cylinder right here. That will be dimensioned in this view. I've also got a negative that comes through here I don't see, but I do get height and width of all my features. I don't even see the slot. Okay, so this is probably one view. From there, I'm probably going to a right side view here. Why? Because on the right side view, I give the total size description, shape and size of this piece up in here. And I've got to get to this orientation, whether it's your right or top doesn't matter, but I've got to get this orientation. Because I also got to locate, right? This has all got to be located, both this one, the negative, the positive, and this positive, all have to be located in this view, right? Locate positive and negative cylinders in the circular view. We dimension them in different views. I don't really get much down in here in this view. So I might have to, I've still got this slot that I see it, but it's not very well defined. So in essence, I would think that I probably need to go to another view, and in this instance, the top view. So here I've got this. Now, here I've got the slot and this hole done. Again, here's where all this is being located and sized, since it's negative. In my mind, this is a 3-view drawing. Now, we do have some other things going on here. Do we have interior features that we don't really see? Not per se. I do have a hard time seeing this thing. It's hidden lines and everything except for this view. This negative cylinder up here is a little bit different. Is there any of these views I can do that would better describe what I'm trying to give? Like maybe this one. Do I have any options except for showing it in this orientation?
As far as like using a different view?
Auxiliary.
Let me put it, changing the view to better describe what's going on.
Have a second.